So this is a very important topic that is the general foundation of all of astrology, is the elements. So what I want you to hear is, before we get into the specifics about the signs, if you can just learn as a beginner to understand the elements and go deep with this, you're going to find great value when we get to, say, your Saturn. Where's your life lesson? The first important question will be, what element is it in? When we get to Mercury, how does your mind work? The first important question will be, what element is it in? So this is like the simple, if we're going to go through classes, if we started at kindergarten to second grade, all I want you to learn is the elements. So I'm going to take a little dive here right now with you and describe them. So there's 4 elements included in all systems of astrology: water, air, earth, and fire. Water always comes first in the way that I present it. This is the esoteric order. In the regular astrology, when you look at it starts in Aries is the first sign, it's fire. If you look around the circle, it goes fire, air, earth, water. Fire, air, earth, and water. On the front page of your booklet is all the signs. That's like this little secret cheat sheet. So you see all the numbers on the right. If number 1 is fire, number 2 is air, but you don't need to memorize it yet, but I'm just giving you the clue. The most powerful thing about astrology is that it is a system that is so airtight, and that sheet, that first sheet in your book, really shows you how unbelievably perfected this is. So, in traditional astrology, it starts with fire. That's the first sign. In esoteric, it starts with water. Why? Because in regular astrology, the idea is, I love the image of a party. So in the 60s, you would go to a party and you'd get all fired up. You'd meet somebody at the party you were attracted to, and you'd say, wow, we should have sex, which we would go from fire to the second, this is the normal system, to earth, and you'd say, your place or mine. And then you'd get to air and go, by the way, what's your name? And then you get to water and go, ooh, I feel terrible. So that's the normal order of how life goes on this planet. Is we get all excited in the beginning, we jump in and start doing something practical together, then we go, I think I forgot to ask you a few questions, and then we're like, ooh, that didn't work. And that's the normal fire, air, earth, and water. That's the normal system. In esoteric, it goes opposite. You start in water and you go, ooh, I have a feeling. I have a sense we might have a connection. And you kind of intuitively feel or sense something in the invisible. Then you say to the person, tell me your name. Tell me what you're interested in. Let's talk. So you didn't go to bed yet. We're just doing the verbal thing. We're becoming friends with a novel idea. Then you get to the earth and you go, okay, let's go out for dinner. Why don't we do something fun together? We're going to go see a movie. And then you get to the fire cycle and you go, either, you know what, forget this. It just didn't work. It doesn't feel right. Or you say, let's fire it up. Let's open it up to the next level. Let's see where we can go. And you start again. So the right use of the order is to always start in water, which is what we do in the day. Think about waking up in the morning. First thing you do in the morning is you brush your teeth, you wash your face, you go to the bathroom, take a shower. It's water. It's the stillness. And in every ancient system, water is the time to do prayer, to go into meditation. That's what they do, from the Jews to the Tibetans to the Sufis. The first thing they start their day with is a prayer. We tend to neglect this area. Water in our society is completely been obliterated. So what do? We drink out of plastic bottles now. We've lost the water. So fresh water is knowing how to sit in stillness, doing the meditation first thing in the morning, having enough wisdom to know that the most important thing is to have your internal dialogue. Water is stillness. It's quiet. Should I do it again? Water is stillness. It's quiet. It's having your emotional body calm. So if we start the day with sanctification and we start by blessing the day and we do the internal work, that's why doing yoga or doing meditation or putting on gentle music or creating hot tea or coffee, I love the symbol that everywhere you go, water is how we start the day. But the question is, are we jazzing up and drinking the coffee to get ourselves all ready to go? Or are we drinking the tea and dropping in and being quiet to actually listen to how can I serve? What's my greatest contribution today? What's the topic that I can intuitively feel I need to deal with? So water is the first element. It's the part in all of us that feels from the invisible. It has nothing to do with the physical world. I always think of water being the 9 months in the womb. That we spend 9 months in this dark, quiet, watery area of our being where we're completely, totally in trust. And we're letting ourselves be created by the One, by the force of God, by completely out of control. Water hates being out of control. The water signs. But in the nature of its true wisdom, it surrenders. It gives itself over to the collective, to the universal, to the spiritual. So water is the part in all of us that wants nothing more than to relax. I call it doing nothing on purpose. to have value of being empty. And mostly in our society, water is completely an American. That's not true in the Eastern society, where their culture is nonverbal, and they start with prayer, and they do have quiet time. But in our society, it's just a, we have, I think of kids in school, and they have a little nap time, and they get to go lie down for 15 minutes and jump up. That's like stopped by the time you're in first grade. There's never again that value of being still and stopping time. So water signs are Pisces, Scorpio, and Cancer in the wrong order, or Cancer, Scorpio, Pisces in the right order. Everything about esoteric goes backwards. I find that so interesting. The esoteric law sees the value of starting with Pisces, which is the dreamer, rather than starting with Cancer, which is the birth. If the dreamer was what created this reality, it's a radical thought that we are simply an action of God's dream, and we're waking up inside the dream. But typically, we don't have that philosophy. We think that we're so in control, and we're making this whole reality up. We all pretend to be normal. Water signs have a very hard time pretending. This is one of the elements that has to do with authenticity. What they feel is what's real, and they are not going to get stuck up in their head. So water is a part in all of us that has an incredible gift for being able to sense what's real, what's not real, has an intuition about where they can trust and what they can't trust. At their best, they're psychic. Water is the element of psychic phenomenon. At their worst, they're scaredy cats. They do what I call MSU. It's a school that all water signs go to. It's called making stuff up. That was the non-swearing version. MSU is a place where people go and they start imagining. So people that have strong water, Cancer, Pisces, or Scorpio, they have this scared imagination where something's going to go wrong, or they're going to get a disease, or somehow the world's going to end soon and they're going to be a bag lady when they grow up, and something's going to be completely negative, and they can scare themselves out of their mind sitting in their bedroom. That's the downside of water. The upside is they're very psychic, they're very intuitive, and they sense things accurately. But the distinction between fear and reality is very difficult for water. So it's the part in all of us that just longs for connection and being at home and having peace and cuddly and snuggly and feeling like we can really be at one and be connected and have a sense of dinner together. That would be like water's favorite thing. Can we just make dinner and stay at home and put some music on? And I'd love to snuggle up and cuddle afterwards, and we can watch a movie. That's like a water dream. We can go into the imaginary world of the movies. We can all hold hands while we're watching it. And now I feel like we're connected. At their downside, they can be reclusive. They can be really psychologically scared. Phobias. And at their upside, they're these creative geniuses that can do poetry and dancing and making movies, and they're incredibly creative. We all know those people that when you go to the party, they're the ones that are standing in the corner holding the drink going, is it almost over? Because they can't talk easily. Water people are not the most social. Their gift is really being able to provide the atmosphere and creating a lovely space and organizing. They're very good because they're so fastidious. They get a little scared when they're out of control. So they want to organize there, but they don't want to be there when the people get there. They don't like people. People for them are irritating. Their system gets overly reactive to too much stimulation. So walking through a theater, or too many people, going to a concert or to an airport or a hospital is like, whoa, can you feel it? We're like, what, air people, what are you talking about? But to a water person, it's like, I need to go home now. So it's the part in all of us that needs stillness and doesn't always know the spiritual part of knowing what it is to be quiet on purpose, and actually understanding that you can learn meditation. You can learn what it is to absolutely rest in a bathtub with a glass of wine with an intention to calm down the internal dialogue. So that's water. Water is the sensitive part, quiet, rich imagination, very loving, and extremely psychic at its best. If you're missing water, or your life lessons water, you want to keep paying attention to your emotional body. So that's a very important counsel that I give people that are missing water. What am I feeling right now? And I say stop. Right then and there I go, stop, take a breath, and in this instant, tell me what you're feeling. And it brings them right into the moment, and they start to realize, oh my God. And they usually say, I don't know. Because people that don't have water can't feel very easily. And then I say, just check out. And they go, use your body as your gauge. It's my next comment. And they'll go, I'm feeling a little bit tense. That's a perfect step. That's like the first step. Okay, so now we've tracked you. You're in your body. You're aware. Or they're saying, I'm really excited. This is so much fun. I'm having the best time. Well, that's another tag of the feeling body. So people that are missing water need the assistance. Go cry. I tell them, I give them a list of sad films. Find your feeling in the moment and find someone who's really emotional that you could sit next to, who you know is comfortable with their feeling body. The next element is air. This is very different than the last. Air is, if you think of it in the part of the day, so we started off with, we woke up in the morning, we had that quiet time, we're entering the day, we have our cup of tea or our cup of coffee, and we're doing our meditation, we've got the nice music on, and next thing you know, we got to get to the computer, air, get on the telephone, look at our date timer, and remember, what was I doing today again? Air people are a little bit airhead-like, and they forget where they're going and what they're doing, and they have 35 ideas at all times, and they're socially connected, and they love being around people. So it's the opposite of water's like, shh, get those people out of here. Air's like, no, no, have them around for a little bit. They don't do anything for too long, air people. They like to get things done quickly. They're very fast. They're very intellectual. They have a huge appetite for information. They love astrology. Reading this stuff and studying it and getting yourself entertained by new thoughts and science. And what does that person say about that? And oh, I read a really good book. And then I couldn't finish it because I found this other book. And I got a magazine and I read the short version. And then I figured out that, you know what, I'm going to go online and just figure it out by researching one word. And boing, they just get off on the smallest little information. So in the cycles, air is the place where we begin to research, we begin to collect information, and we find the people, and we learn about projects, and we really ask a lot of questions. They are unbelievably inquisitive. They can read the backs of the deodorant bottle in the bathroom and start getting off on, oh, wow, I wonder how they made this. I wonder where this came from. Oh, look, it was made in New York. I wonder how they got the lid. They're just completely, someone called them a 25-cent whore who they will think about anything for any period of time because they just want to have their mind stimulated. I love that. Like put the quarter in and now my mind goes off. So they need to have the television and the radio and the internet and books. And they have a great gift for communicating. Their specialty is teaching. Taking big ideas into small bite sizes and keeping you interested. It's like a commercial. I always think of them as 60-second commercials, air signs. That's how long their attention span is. And they say something and they mean it when they say it and they forget what they said 10 minutes later. Where did I put that? I always think of the version of Einstein who had lots of error, and he was walking, I love the story, he was at MIT and some students walked up to him and he had this great conversation about something. At the end of the conversation he said, was I walking toward the school or away from the school when we started this? Like, which direction was I going? And that's error. Like, I'm completely confused. I have to make a decision. I can't quite remember where I was going, but I'm sure you can help me, can't you? And then they start to seek help. They call somebody. They find a friend. They get advice. They find someone to help because left to their own devices, they're indecisive. And they can't remember. And their gift is connecting us by our heart. At the highest level, air people are really good at relationship. They value being close to another. At their lowest level, they're fickle. Change their mind, they're cut off, they don't know what they're feeling, and they're super disjointed. It's like they say they want to be in a relationship, but they don't want to be in a relationship, but they say they want to be close, but they don't, but they do, you're like, you're confusing me. And then secretly they're thinking, I'm confused too. So their gift is articulating and communicating, and their challenge is, how do I use my mind? Okay, the cycles of the day. My favorite image is at the dinner party. So you get to the dinner party. First thing, what do they do when you first walk into a dinner party? What would you like to drink? They say. That's water. First thing they do is hand you a glass of wine, give you a cup of tea. Then they get to the air cycle at the party. So did you see the latest movie? What's her name? Have you seen her lately? And blah, 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 blah. As my friend said, they talk all night. They talk about nothing. That's what air people do. They just talk and talk, and you're like, please get to the point. And then we get to the earth cycle, which we'll be to in a moment. But the air cycle is always that socializing, intellectualizing, verbalizing, great ideas, writing them down, forgetting where you put them, writing them down again, putting them on the computer, and then hoping you'll make a book one day. That would be air people. Yeah, I find them entertaining, she said about herself. Let's see, any other piece of air? Am I forgetting anything? I don't think so. See, that's a perfect example of air. Like they are wing artists. Is that a term? A wing nut. I love it. And then the air person goes, now where did wingnut come from? Or coining a phrase. How did you coin it? That's how their mind thinks, is they're constantly being tickled by the thought process and how people make up these things. And why follow? That's the big piece. They don't follow. You can't get air to stay in a box. It will always sneak out. So you don't tell air what to do for very long, because eventually they will make up their own style, their own rhythm, and you can't get them to conform. Love that. Designers, creators. If they're missing air entirely, I say to those people, you have to journal. You have to learn the skill of hearing your own voice, because you're not talking. You're keeping everything inside. And if the person, I say to them, go find a friend who's really social and go spend the day with them and watch how they engage with the telephone operator on the telephone. Then they go to the bank and they talk to the bank teller, and then they go to the restaurant and become best friends with the waitress. That's air people. They just tickle everybody. And you pretend. That's what I encourage air people to do. So it's very important for them to journal and get their own voice, to find people who are social. And the third and most important one about air is to tell them to ask questions. The biggest missing factor for people that don't have air is they don't know how to engage another person in a conversation. And the trick of any master of air, anybody you meet that's got great air, is they ask a million questions. So tell me, where are you from? And what do you do? And how long were you married? And when did you get married? And how's your kids? And how many kids do you have? And next thing you know, the person. So that's air. How do we engage another? Ask them questions. It's the quickest way. And I always teach people, if you don't know how to have a conversation or be at a party, it's a short answer.